In 2019, you could buy wholesale pads at the lowest you could get is 36 bob. Right now it's 52 bob. When you could buy at retail, the lowest you could get it was 50. Now it's between 65 and 70.
This is an all of us conversation. Rejecting the finance bill isn't a trend, it isn't a flex, it's a reality if we want justice and fairness.
And it's amazing that there are like all these men chanting in the background. It's bringing me like such joy.
I know.
So in 2004, women MPs were the first ever in the world that waived value-added tax. Okay. Right? So Kenya was the first ever 20 years ago.
My name is Rachel Mwekali. I'm a Pan-African feminist. I'm here to reject Finance Bill 2024. One is because it's very patriarchal. When you look, I'm very passionate also about menstrual hygiene management, and now we are seeing this finance bill being proposed. It's one way of also catalyzing injustices around menstrual hygiene management. It is not very inclusive of women and women's rights, and that's why we are here together as women and girls in our own diversity and people of Kenya to reject the finance bill, and also to stand in solidarity with all women and girls like myself to say we can't keep quiet when we are seeing the fight we have been fighting around menstrual justice being curtailed, being blocked in the Parliament of Kenya, and that's why we are here to resist it. And I encourage many girls, teachers, and everybody in Kenya to reject it, because they can't say now ati tumewatilia, tumewatolea mambo ya parts na ilhali walikuwa najua ni mbaya hizo vitu na propose na wako wanataka kutoa. We are rejecting finance bill and in solidarity pushing for women feminist values and principle, and we are here pamoja tunakataa finance bill, tutachoka, tutazidi kupambana. Asante.
If you don't already know these incredible women standing next to me, they are
Megan Makuria from Zana Africa and Nia Pads.
And
Angela Wawero, Sister Speaks 254 and Hills for Pads.
I feel like this is such a cool sort of like the journey of menstrual justice. So all of us work in the space.
Yes.
These are incredible period sisters,
Yeah.
incredible activists. I want to start with Megan because she's been doing this since 2006.
Yes.
Menstrual justice, period poverty has been a pretty big conversation around the finance bill. Megan, very briefly, if you can just kind of give us the journey of how and why we got here and why this is such a hot issue.
Yeah, and it's amazing that there are like all these men chanting in the background. It's bringing me like such joy.
I know.
So in 2004, women MPs were the first ever in the world that waived value-added tax.
Okay.
Right? So Kenya was the first ever 20 years ago. So the fact that we're even trying to reintroduce VAT, it's like we've been a global leader and now we're going back on that? Like, that's not okay. Right? So during that time, I found out that sanitary pads were the second biggest cost for girls every month after bread in the orphanage, basically, that I was working in. And so at the same time, I was having all these late night conversations. So really, the pads are part of a bigger conversation about reproductive health and consent and knowledge. But in 2006, when I was the youngest incoming president of a Rotary Club, on Valentine's Day actually, we launched the National Sanitary Towels Campaign. So I spearheaded that, but it was a consortium of NGOs, Girl Child Network, a whole bunch of others, and Rotary, which kind of spurred this whole movement and was building on the amazing women MPs who started talking about it 2 years prior. So that's kind of how it's come about.
And then after that, there's a sense, and it's interesting because that was then, and then, you know, I came in through the media, periods of shame, and then, but still, and then Angie now, that's why I'm saying it's such a cool journey for the three of us to be here. Angie, before we come to you, Megan, that was such a pivotal moment, like MPs and yourself and everyone coming together. What do you think happened? Because over time, it's been a bit inconsistent, there's been a few holes in it. Where do you think that's coming from?
I mean,
a moment.
I'm gonna take a
moment for the spirit around us today. Hello.
Hey. Reject.
Don't tax our periods.
So sorry, what was your question?
We're just caught up in the moment, guys. It was what happened because there was momentum
So in 2007 they started. It was actually Raila Odinga and the late Mutula Kilonzo that started proposing pads for schoolgirls, right? And that was part of our call to action. So in 2007-2008 budget was the first ever budget to have pads into budgets. It was 400 million shillings at about 65 shillings to $1.
Okay.
Since then, it's got siphoned off, it's got slashed.
Yeah.
Now my understanding is it was supposed to be 200 million this year, but less than 100 million is accounted for.
And now with this
so a
new
lot
budget,
of this reject is also hold politicians accountable. It's not just reject, it is accountability for government funding.
Yeah.
So it also used to include underpants, and then that got slashed too. So it's important that we understand that context, that Kenya was a leader globally and at like the cutting edge of justice in 2007, 2008, and since then we've been sliding down, and we can't allow that.
it's so important that you painted that picture. Then Angela, you came in
2019.
in 2019. You obviously kind of saw that there was still a disconnect in the space, that there was still a gap. And then you're here, you've been speaking out as CISPA Speaks. What is it about Reject Finance that has, for you, that is particularly really triggering around menstrual justice?
First of all, when we started, I didn't even know that period poverty was a terminology. But obviously over time since 2019, realizing that COVID made it worse. And unfortunately, if we tax the pad, we stand to, like when we started, let me give a picture. In 2019, you could buy wholesale pads at the lowest you could get is 36 bob. Right now it's 52 bob. When you could buy at retail, the lowest you could get it was 50. Now it's between 65 and 70. As it stands, it could get up to 96 at retail. So if we I mean,
I'll push back a little bit on those numbers, but
no. I'm talking about the ones from 2019 and to now, but maybe the retail could change and be lower, but it could be higher. But I'm just thinking, if between 50 to 72, right? I mean 50 to it being 65, 70, I can still afford it, but there's somebody who couldn't even afford it at 50. So the message is clear: reject the bill, don't tax my pad. My period, I can't, as Amelia Odhiambo said, I cannot switch off my periods. I would love to.
My period doesn't stop because of this. Very quickly, as we wind up, Megan, you were talking about the numbers. I know Angie has outlined something. Tell us a little bit about the numbers we need to keep in mind. And then finally, there's been a great, Macmillan Library, All Saints Cathedral have portable toilets and pads.
Awesome.
And we'll end with that, so where people can find that. But in terms of the numbers.
So, I mean, when I started this, I launched the National Sanitary Towels campaign, but then I was trying to address the actual pads, right? So we're one of the only people in the world that has large-scale commercial manufacturing of agricultural byproducts, but the investment environment is not such that we've been able to actualize that, right? So we started, I think our journey as NIA is very similar to the journey in Kenya. We started locally, the products were low quality and high cost, and then the shilling tanked, so we had to import from China, right? We've shifted that this year, so now we're able to manufacture locally. But I want to just kind of make a comment, Janet, if I can, about local manufacture, because if you bring in poor quality raw materials and you don't have good trained staff for the machine, you're going to have low quality products, right? So our products are proudly made in Kenya, and we're able to actually have high quality because of the raw materials and the quality of people.
We're seeing a lot of people moving this way, so I have a feeling, you know, those people who like walk into the rage? We're walking into where people are running from.
But what I want to mention from some numbers is that only 8 million women are served in the actual formal market with sanitary pads, against a need for 16.4 million women who are menstruating and girls and people who menstruate. So we actually would need 11. Wow!
Whoa!
We would need. It's like fireworks for protesters.
It really is, and I think it's. I'm sorry, but I think it's highly unnecessary to be lobbying. It's fine. I'll do my rant after this.
I mean, basically, we would need 12 machines in the country to make pads for every single girl and woman, and I want us to have that be our North Star. Let's get there. Let's reject this finance bill, yes, but let's be proud of the quality we have that we can do, demand good quality products, demand manufacturers take lower margins on their products like Nia does to get a socially just price, and let's build Kenya and buy Kenya.
I absolutely agree, and I do agree about like the quality, and of course the numbers that I'm talking about is the bare minimum, the lowest.
Yes,
the lowest.
absolutely.
And of course they're doing what they can to serve the community that cannot be able to afford. So we need to, first of all, we need to realize this. And Neville Okwara said, we're all a product of our missing period. So this is not a conversation just for us period sisters. It also involves men too, because you came from a woman and you must die for a woman. I mean, if you know what I'm quoting, you know.
Love it. And there is massive, okay, we're just gonna move with everyone. We're gonna wanna move. But guys, the reason we're here, the reason we're having this conversation is because we need to be part of Look, this was just a conversation with a group of people who are so passionate. There's a lot of other people, Nyaruai, Binti Pat, who've all been doing incredible work.
Absolutely.
We're going to link those handles. But in the meantime, this is an all of us conversation. Rejecting the finance bill isn't a trend. It isn't a flex. It's a reality if we want justice and fairness. So there we go, right behind us.
Reject!
Reject! Alrighty, reject.
All right.